exploring our oneness with Spirit and each other. Unity Online Radio.
Thank you for tuning in for this Unity Partner Program. Unity Online Radio partners with spiritual leaders from organizations whose mission and messages complement Unity's. We are pleased to bring you this program on Unity Online Radio, the voice of an awakening world.
Welcome to Living on Purpose with psychology doctoral candidate Jessie Herriott from Atlanta, Georgia. Are you ready to make the switch? A switch from barely living to living on purpose. During the next hour, you will discover principles to help you live a fully functioning, conscious, and purposeful life. The all is mind, and so are you. Let's live on purpose. Now, here's your host, Jessie Herriott.
Thank you so much for tuning in this week to Living on Purpose, only at Unity.fm radio. I am delighted that you have joined us today. I know that you are out working and fulfilling your calling and living your life on purpose, but I don't believe that it's by accident that you've tuned into this particular hour. I believe that there is something that was calling you, what they talk about in biblical terms, the deep calling unto the deep, something deep down on the inside of you, calling you and beckoning you to live a more fuller and prosperous and fully functioning life. And hopefully within this hour, you'll pick up something that will help you shift your game and reach that level of peak performance and move to the next level. And this next level we're talking about is beyond manifesting wealth and beyond money, but we're talking about tapping into the reason why you were born, the reason why you came here in this particular incarnation. And so this is the purpose of the show, and I am glad again that you have joined me. On today's show, we have a local favorite of mine. Her name is Pastor or Rev Rowena Silvera. Just want to tell you a bit about her as we introduce her. Bear with me 1 second. Rev Rowena Silvera is a spiritual leader and teacher in the interfaith tradition of love, compassion, charity, and non-separation. Rev Ro, as she is known, is the founder of A Different Thought Community for Conscious Living. It's an organization that promotes her vision of open and affirming community engaged. It's an open and affirming community, engaged in progressive theological dialogue. A little tongue-tied there. As founder and principal of Maximum Life Coaching, she has offered private empowerment coaching for over 15 years and continues to spearhead workshops focused on resolving self-esteem and self-awareness issues. Her past experience as host of her own internet radio show qualifies her, and Rev Rowena is just a blessing. She has a timely message, folks, and I want you to listen close and pull out your pen and pad on this week because you are in for a treat as we delve into unveiling consciousness on this week. Rev Rowena, are you there?
I'm here.
Awesome. Well, it's great to have you on the show today. How are you?
I'm fantastic, present and awake, and ready to have a wonderful hour with you and your listening audience.
Awesome. Well, we are definitely glad to have you. Some of them that are on the East Coast right now, you may be driving in your car, listening to Unity FM on your PDA device or your internet connection at home, or if you're out fulfilling your purpose, that's okay as well. You have to sneak and get those spiritual nutrients on the job sometimes, And for those of you that are in the Central Time Zone, it's probably 9 o'clock over here. It's 10 o'clock where I am. We are just grateful that you are taking the time out to nourish your soul. So on today's show, we're going to be talking about consciousness. And this particular show is inspired from, Rev, one of your talks that you gave on the 7 veils of consciousness. And when I listened to it, It blew me away because I was told by one scholar that you don't really understand a thing unless you can define it, you know? And
Absolutely.
you took consciousness and you defined it in such a way that I've never heard it before. So for our listening audience out there, we have people tuning in that may be New Thought, that may, adhere to a metaphysical interpretation of the Bible, and then we have some from all sorts of faiths. What is consciousness?
Consciousness, to simplify it, is the way you think. It's the way you think in relation to the world you live in. So it's your thinking in relation to the world that you live in. Now, that system of thought is informed by various things, and that's when we get into the veil of consciousness. But consciousness in itself is the way you think in relation to the world that you live in. Now, Jesse, I live in my own world, and you live in your own world. So your level of consciousness may not mirror my level of consciousness, and vice versa. So even though we are all sharing a unified field of existence and awareness, our worlds may be different. So our consciousness is in relation to the way we think, move, and act in relation to our world.
Wow, that's amazing. And, you said a mouthful there, in particular, something you said about sharing a unified field. One of the things that I've realized from my many teachers is that the breath is something that really, really brings us back to source, and it connects us to everything living and everything moving. The same breath that you're breathing right now is the same breath that Donald Trump is breathing. We are all connected. Now, I have a specific question to piggyback off of what you said. Where does perception fit in there? Because in psychology, they teach us, that perceived reality is sometimes, the reality that you experience, or as Pearson says, perceived reality is ultimate reality, but not ultimate truth. All of us have different perceptions, and sometimes we even have schizomas, blocks in those perceptions. Could you talk about perception for a bit? Where does that come into play in reference to consciousness?
Well, everything is as we perceive it. So if you and I walk into a room and there is an occurrence in the room, I may perceive it one way, you may perceive it another way. Therefore, when we leave that room or we leave that occurrence or that happening, and someone says, Jesse, what happened this morning? You're going to tell that story through your lens. I'm going to tell it through my lens, even though there's an independent thing happening. So we get back to our perception and our consciousness is linked into the way we see the world. So then the question becomes, how did I become, or how did I start seeing the world the way I see it? And then we get into the veils of consciousness. We get into what informs our thinking and what informs of the way we move, act, think, feel in this world. And so I sort of distilled it to 7 veils or 7 aspects. And I like to look at it as a circle. So it's almost like, segments of an orange, if you will. And so I'll go through them quickly, but then we can talk about them a little bit more. So the 7 veils of consciousness is 1, your experience. 2, your tribal system. 3, your physicality. 4, the shadow aspect of yourself.
Oh, yeah, 5, gotta love that one.
I love the shadow, right? 5 is the emerging and developing thought or theories. 6 is gathering, and 7 is the collective consciousness, which, Young has an exhaustive study on that.
Oh, yeah. Is that similar to what they call the oversoul, kind of sort of the essence that we all share together?
Yes, exactly, because we're all pulling from this great source. So I mentioned tribal systems earlier. So our personal tribal system is a small tribe, and then the collective consciousness would be the large tribe.
Ah, that's awesome. That is so awesome. I don't want to get ahead of myself here. I want to go through all of these because I have so many questions for you. And just to let you know, Rev, I am excited that you mentioned the physical body. You know, there's in so many instances we leave out the physical body. In Kabbalah, one of my teachers taught me that in essence to the multi-layers of the soul, we have the body, which is also a part of that system. They call it in Kabbalah the guf or the goop. You know, the body, which is multidimensional in itself, all the way down to the cellular level. There's so much wisdom and intelligence in these cells that are so old, you know? They're like mini universes themselves. It's almost like when you take an atom.
The cells hold on to so much. You know,
yes.
Sometimes people experience something that is independent of anything that's happening in there now, and it's because the cells have a memory.
Cellular memory, that's awesome. So, just to pull back out of number 3, because we want to pull the reins back, folks, and we want to jump into number 1. I know, because it's like, ooh, I want that one. Let's jump into number 1, experience. Break down what you mean by experience in terms of the first veil of consciousness for our audience.
Okay, so your experience is the walk that you've walked until this present moment. So, if you are a teenager and you're 16 years old, it's the 16-year walk. If you're 32 years old, it's the 32-year-old walk. If you're 65, 95, it's that walk. It's your experiences until this present moment. All the things that you've taken in, all the things that you've enjoyed or endured. So those are your experiences. That informs who you are, how you move, how you think, how you act, how you feel. Your behavior. So it's your experience up until the present moment. That is informing your consciousness.
That's awesome, Rev. You know, I read somewhere, these were questions that were coming up in myself and just, you know, in my day-to-day discussions with folks that adhere to a metaphysical, you know, interpretation of the Bible and of sacred texts, that there is a sense to want to try and escape your experiences, you know, to just, you know, I'm okay, things are well. You know, that sense that comes about from folks that are in New Thought. So you're telling us that we should include and embrace those experiences that we have? You
don't have a choice. If you're going to develop, grow, unfold, and expand, you have to. You have to identify them, and you have to embrace them. It's happened. It's a part of who you are. So I agree with you that sometimes in New Thought and metaphysics, we tend to take this sort of, for lack of a better term, airy-fairy position of, you know, I'll say a couple of affirmations, and I'll speak my way into this wonderful pink cloud.
Right.
But that's really not a part of who you are in your deepest core. In yourself, you have the human experience, and you need to acknowledge it because you're here to be human.
Right.
So you're not here to transcend your humanity. You're here to embrace it and find a way to tweak it so that it works better for you and it works better for the planet.
Wow. And you know, I was talking the other day with someone, and they were telling me, you know, this information is positive and uplifting, but, you know, I have bills. You know, it's easier to do this, you know, but I have bills, you know, I see that 30-day notice there, and I'm transitioning. And I read a Facebook post from someone that said, you know, I would love to join the team, but, you know, my husband just got laid off. You know, how do we digest these experiences that we call bad? And there really is no good or bad. That's buying into that duality thinking. But, you know, tell certain folks that you'll start a fight. But there's positive and negative, you know, ends of that spectrum. How do we embrace even those, before we get into the shadow side, how do we embrace those seemingly bad things that occur? I'll say negative.
You know, sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm finished.
I remember hearing Michael Beckwith of Agape saying once, you can't be the light of the world if you can't pay your light bill.
Right.
And I thought that was great. It was fantastic. So when we're enduring these human experiences of lack and limitation, they're real for us. If someone doesn't have light or can't feed their kids or worried about being put out of their home, It's real.
Mm-hmm.
For me to tell you, oh, don't worry about it, say 3 affirmations, and then everything will be better, I'm not really hearing you or in it with you.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to take care of the form. You want to take care of the carnal. You want to take care of the world because you're living in the world. So you're going to endure difficulties from time to time. However, what the spiritual work does, it takes you from a long, extended period of grief and disconnection and shortens that time. When you learn to find your breath, even in the midst of turmoil, what you're saying is, I'm creating a space between me and the occurrence, and in that space, I'm allowing the light of God, as I understand God, to flood in. When I do this, it now gives me the space to say, okay, something's going to be done. So your lights are off. They probably won't stay off forever. You're experiencing some lack in some area of your life. It probably won't endure forever.
Right.
You see, so when we get the egoic impulse out of, oh, poor me, look how this horrible thing happened to me. That's it. This is my life. My life is always like this. I don't know all that spiritual crap they're talking about because, this is real right here. Yeah, it is real. But there's another even greater reality. And you have to tap into that in order to escape the mundane.
Right, and that's powerful. You said pulling back to breath because, all of these seemingly outside circumstances, they affect the way we breathe. When we're excited, when we're nervous, our breath changes. But if you can pull back to something that's permanent, something that's real, if you can pull back to source, like I said, those blind spots won't occur because now from this sense of permanence, you can see possibilities. And you have to be able to see it, not just a passive act, but you have to literally participate in that seeing process, right? So that you can literally move out from where you are.
You have to participate in your own healing. So in every occurrence, there's a passage in the Bible that says, choose ye this day whom you will serve. So when you're in the DMV or you've gotten a bad doctor's report or anything that happens that you are certainly justified in feeling badly about, you take the breath and then you ask the question, what am I going to serve? Who am I serving in this moment? Am I going to serve the fear that appears in front of me, or am I going to serve the love and have the love transform my circumstance? What am I lending my energy to, even in this bad time, even in the face of death, even in the face of destruction, even in the face of foreclosure, even in the face of lack and limitation, even in the face of confusion? Who am I serving in this moment?
Wow. So you're in control. Is that what you're saying?
Always. You always have a choice.
So, folks, if you are listening right where you are, do us all a favor and do yourself a favor. Just take a deep breath right where you are, even if things are going well. Come back to that sense like the Bible talks about the prodigal son returning home to the father. Come back to that awareness. Take a breath right where you are. I'm taking a deep breath right now, and from that space, yes. And Michael Beckel does this all the time in the middle of his talking points, and it also helps you to digest information as well. It's sort of like psychotherapeutic, You can take a deep breath as information's coming in, and so you get that bad phone call, and sometimes you it's not like you're out of the know. You can anticipate when these things are coming, but again, like you said, some that have that airy-fairy mindset, we want to know. No, so how do you balance that sense of you feel that anticipation, your intuition is telling you, but then you're like, no, that's the ego. That's the ego. How do you know which one is which?
Well, it might be the ego. It might be the ego. The bottom line is whatever is showing up or however it got to you, if you're faced with something, a dilemma, it is real for you in that moment. Whether it's egoic, whether it was by chance, whatever your personal belief system is. In that moment, you're feeling it. But at the same time, in that moment, you have a choice. So when we deny it in New Thought, we're not denying that the event is happening. We shouldn't be denying that the event is happening. We're denying the power it has over our lives. So we're not denying. I'm not saying the lights are not off and waiting Shazam for them to just magically turn on. I'm saying, well, this is a temporary situation. So you know what? I have some candles. I'm going to light a candle.
Mm-hmm.
The moonlight's outside. I'm going to go outside and enjoy the moonlight. I can lay in my bed and lament for the next 6 hours if the lights are off. That may not change it, but I can change the way I think about it.
Right. Right. Ask those old school folks. They will tell you, listen, they've been through some times. I remember those days when they used to sit on the porch in the country, didn't have central heat and air, and open the door. Let the breeze blow in.
You move past it. You have to. You're going to move past it anyway. See, the time is going to pass anyway. The hours are going to pass anyway. The situation is transient. It's going to pass anyway. No matter what it is, whether it's something as simple as a bill that you need to pay or something heavier that you've lost a loved one. Time and the world and energy is going to move anyway.
Rev,
I can help myself by choosing love over fear, as of course the miracles would teach us.
I'm sorry to slow you down. I know it's like, oof, this is getting good. We have to take a quick commercial break. I am so sorry. Folks, stay tuned and hang in there. I'm Jesse Herriott talking today with Rev Rowena Silvera, Senior Minister and Spiritual Director of A Different Thought Spiritual Community in Decatur, Georgia. International speaker and life coach. When we return, we'll continue the conversation with Rev Row next on Living on Purpose.
Unity Online Radio is bringing the message of unity to tens of thousands of spiritual seekers around the world. If you have been served by this programming, we invite you to support it by visiting www.unity.fm and clicking on Donate Now. Thank you for your support.
If you've ever wondered how a specific Bible verse might be interpreted metaphysically, then Interpret This is for you. In Interpret This, Unity Minister Reverend Ed Townley answers your questions about the Bible and how to apply its verses to your life with passion, depth, and spiritual insight. To submit a question or to enjoy any of his numerous metaphysical interpretations, visit unity.org and click on the Interpret This box.
The Unity message is universal, uniting, empowering, and transformational. Carrying this message to the world with the power of music and song are scores of singers and songwriters who dedicate their extraordinary gifts to helping heal the world and spread the message of unity and oneness. These are the messengers of unity.
We salute the messengers of unity, the voices of the one voice of all humanity, heroes with weapons of melody and rhyme, waging peace, one song at a time.
Tune in to Pauzapalooza, Music That Matters, with host Richard McDeesey, to hear the music and the artists who are changing the world, one song at a time. Fridays at noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern on Unity FM, the voice of an awakening world.
You've been listening to Living on Purpose with Jesse Herriott. If you have a question or comment about today's broadcast, or if you'd like to join in the discussion, friend us on Facebook at Jesse Herriott or email us at livingonpurpose@unity.fm. Now, more Living on Purpose.
And we're back, folks. We're talking today with Rev Row, as she goes by, Reverend Rowena Silvera, Senior Minister and Spiritual Director of A Different Thought Spiritual Community in Decatur, Georgia. She's an international speaker in her own rights and a life coach. We were just continuing the conversation. She was jumping into her 7 veils. What we're talking about today is unveiling consciousness. You know, what consciousness is and how does it relate to us? And she defined it in 7 categories. As she described it as an orange, sort of with many layers all the way down to the core. So We're going to jump back in the conversation where we left off. We were talking about your experiences. So, Rev, for those that just tuned in during the second half, can you give us a quick recap of this layer of consciousness?
Sure. We were at the layer of experience. So what your life experiences are up until this present moment. Good, bad, noticeable, unnoticeable, everything that has informed your life until today, this moment, this now moment, not even today, until this very now moment.
And so for those that are stuck on that layer, or they feel that they're stuck based on their perception, you're telling them that there are other layers of their consciousness that can help them, if they become aware of it, help them make that shift, into their place of purpose, so to speak. If they can move out of the experience, it's good to become aware of it, but to move, past it, in a sense. Am I understanding you correctly, or?
Yeah, you can move past it, but you have to know what you're moving past. So you have to know who you are and what makes you tick and why I am the way I am and how did I get this way? Well, how come I respond with rage in this situation? How come I'm depressed? How come I'm always engaged in victim consciousness or lacking limitation? How come? So it's the how come we're trying to uncover. The veils uncover the how come, so to speak, and then we can go to a space of aspiration and a space of hope. And before we end today, I'm going to give a little acronym on hope, and that helps you to start to really work with the segments of the oranges, if you will.
That's powerful. And based off what you said you have to ask the question. Nierka, who is a very powerful teacher, says that your questions basically already have their responses inherent within them. So your questions lead you to where you want to go. And that question of how come, it leads you down that right path versus those self-defeating questions, because if you ask those questions, you're going to get those answers. Well, why me? Well, it's because of such and such. Well, it seems like things aren't fair, and you start asking other questions like that. It leads you down that road. So you have to shift your state, shift your question.
And you have to be willing. Part of it is that we have to understand that there is sometimes a part of the egoic experience or the lower self thinking that we enjoy. Now I can hear people screaming, I don't enjoy turmoil in my life. I don't, enjoy dysfunction. I don't enjoy lack of limitation. But whenever you're enduring something for a prolonged period of time, you have to ask yourself, am I getting anything out of this?
Right.
Is there anything in this? I know it's a bad situation, but is there any little bit of anything? Do I like the attention I get when I'm depressed? Am I seeking love? So is there any reason that this state has endured for me? Wow.
And these are very, very real questions. These are questions that take us deep into our own psyche. We're out of other people's business, and we're out of, analyzing other people, but we're analyzing us. This big, huge mansion that Jesus talked about. In my Father's house are many mansions with all of these infinite rooms. You ever had a dream, where you went inside of a library or a big house and there were many rooms and some you could get into and some you couldn't? I had one of those dreams last night, by the way. All of these many aspects of our own self. And sometimes we aren't aware, that we're like that or.
That's why you need to stay in your own garden.
Right.
It doesn't mean that you can't help people and you can't be loving and supportive to people. You should, and that's why we're here. We're here to love and support each other. But when it comes to the psycho-spiritual aspect of life, you really need to stay focused inward. Now, focusing inward does not mean you take on a selfish posture. Right. It just means that you're reflective of how you're showing up in the world. And that's when we get back to the seventh veil. So the next veil we uncover is our tribal experience. So it's our tribal system. It's our societal and family beliefs and expectations. Like, if you grew up in a Democratic family, 9 times out of 10, you're going to be a Democrat. If you grew up in a Republican family, you might end up being a Republican. Well, did you choose that? Or was it just handed to you with the package, the tribal package? I don't like cabbage. Well, why don't you like cabbage? Did you ever try cabbage, or was that just not cooked in your home? Your parents didn't like it, so I don't like cabbage.
Wow. And you know, that's amazing in itself. Oh my God, this is so helping me. Guys, please, if you have your pens and pads, if you're at work, like I said, fulfilling your calling, living your purpose, if you can, go back and download the show. It's compatible with any of your handheld devices. You can download it for your MP3, iPod, iPad. This is great stuff. Rev, you made me think of my own self. And sometimes these tribal systems and these beliefs and these expectations, you're kind of sort of, I don't want to say brainwashed, because my family might be listening.
Yeah, that's a word.
but yeah, that's what you are, and it takes years to pull out of the matrix. You know, it feels like it takes years to pull out of the matrix because there's so much stuff there. I wanted to be a lawyer for some time, and when I met my wife, you know, and we started to look at some things, I had to realize that I wanted to be an attorney because of the expectations that were placed on me from, you know, not just the tribal systems at home, but media and what, and all sorts of things. Yeah,
that's
school.
It.
Because I thought, you know, hey, an attorney, you know, money and so and so. So I have all these degrees in all these categories. You know, I'm grateful for them, you know, but my true calling was teaching.
See? But if you get to ask the questions, you know, we arrive, and if we have a good situation, a good childhood situation, then immediately expectations are placed upon us. Those expectations come from what our parents or our guardians think would be the best thing for us, along with their own unresolved issues sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
So then you decide, well, I'm going to be a doctor. It just sounds like a good thing to be. So you get on the track and you do all the things, and maybe you get through the whole process, and somewhere at the end you're like, oh, I'm still not happy.
Right.
So you acquire all the money and all the stuff, and oh, I'm still not happy. And you have the degrees and the titles and the education. Oh, I'm still not happy. Well, you never asked yourself anywhere along those 20 years, what do I really want to do and be?
Wow, that's awesome. These questions, folks, please catch this. These questions are powerful. And listening for the answer. You know, sometimes we ask questions and then we move on, or we just make up an answer. Sometimes you have to just sit still and listen. You know, quiet the mind.
You can't always answer right away.
Yeah. We have a mind, but we're not our minds, right? That thinking aspect of us, you know.
Sometimes it's a two-second answer, and sometimes it's a 20-year answer.
Right. So back to the tribal system, family. How do we, because this is an aspect of consciousness as well, how do we reconcile, or how do we make sense of situations where our family don't necessarily adhere to our concept of reality or concept of the world? I've seen religion, so to speak, divide families, and it's sad. You know, I haven't heard that much, you know, of that happening for those that adhere, that are more liberal and, you know, that are in the metaphysical community. But there may be some watching now that are listening, or some listening rather, that hear us talk about the tribal system. How do we, in a sense, love our families and get along with them and not be, you know, inhibited by their beliefs? You understand the question, what I'm trying to ask?
I do. I absolutely do. We find that sometimes with religion, a great deal with religion and sort of the doctrines associated with certain religious identities. And if you come from a family that is X, and now you have this emerging thought and this new way of looking at things, and they are fixed in their thought system, the first thing you have to know is you're probably never going to get them to see your way. And you don't have to. You have to learn how to honor.
Say that one more time.
Everybody.
Can you repeat that one more time?
You may not get them to see your way. You may not get them to understand what you're saying or how you feel, and you do not have to.
You don't have to.
No. You can love them. I know, and I don't mean to simplify it this way, but if someone says, you know, I love the color blue, and somebody says, oh, I love red, and all right, so you love red, I love blue, and it's fine, no problem. If you begin to insist that I love red, and I begin to insist you must love blue, and we start to get into a battle over color, and we're not really fighting about that.
Mm.
You know, that's a whole other thing, because we're fighting about something that's underneath that.
Mm-hmm.
So when it comes to religion, when I'm holding on to my religious thought, it's because this provides comfort and safety for me. You coming with new thought now, you're about to upset the apple cart. And I don't want that change in my life.
Mm.
So as a progressive person, you have to say to yourself, I don't have to get you to see it my way. And you know what? I may come home and you may want me to pray and do the things we've always done, and maybe I can do that. How much harm does it cause? Do I have to be right? You know, Marianne Williamson has something, and she says, which I love, is, do you want to be right or you want to be happy?
That's awesome. So,
and I don't need you to agree with me.
That's powerful. You're saying this progressiveness, if we can call it that, you know, if you're listening and, you know, you have a traditional background and you're not so sure if you want to label yourself anything. In fact, there are some that are probably listening that feel stuck, like they're stuck between religions. I know what that feels like. It's, in a sense, feel like you're trying to make a next step, but you're not sure what that next step is. You're saying that it's not about proselytizing. It's not about going out and trying to convert people. Is that what you're saying, or folks in our family?
No, you got it. You know, at ADT we say it's consciousness, not conversion.
Ah, beautiful.
You know, I don't need to convert you. You know, and my position of not wanting to convert you doesn't come from a situation of, well, you go ahead and do what you want to do. I don't care. No, it comes from a position of love. I understand that you anchoring into religion in this way is beneficial for you. And I honor that. And I'm going to honor what I believe, but I don't have to get into a battle with you.
Right. Because we can transcend our beliefs. You know, as Michael Beckwith says, your beliefs should lead you to source. That if they're a true path, they should lead us to the same point. Now, let's move on, because this is, consciousness. So when I say the word, oh my God, someone asks me what's consciousness, I'm like, how much time you got? Let's move on to the physical body. How does the physical body fit in the orange of consciousness, so to speak?
Well, it's how you feel physically. If you wake up with a terrible migraine, you're not going to perform the same way you're going to perform if you're feeling great and well and you had a wonderful night's sleep. It's really as simple as how you feel in your body. You have a sinus infection, or you twisted your ankle, you don't feel the same way. So when I approach something, a situation, if I haven't rested, I have to be mindful of that. If I'm going to coach somebody or counsel somebody and I didn't have a good night's sleep, unless it's an emergency situation, I might need to put it off an hour. Because if I'm physically better, I show up in a better way mentally. How you take care of your body, you know, people who exercise tend to perform better, things of that nature. We're not all perfect with that. But the idea is it's something to aspire to. Right. Be mindful of how you physically move and walk in the world. How you feel, how you show up, what you eat, what you ingest. You know, all those things, your physical form, because that's what you're using. So I know we want to transcend the physical form and we want to be into a spiritual realm, but our experience here is a physical experience.
Right. So our bodies are very intelligent. You know, we have encoded in us thousands of years of information and intelligence. You know, and if, like you said, getting back to the breath, if we can just pull back to the breath, and there are simple things that we can do to help us get in touch with that physical body. You know, meditation has spiritual connotations, but it also has physical connotations in the body. It reduces stress and all of that.
Down. You know, and Jesse, I teach all the time about people with meditation. They respond to meditation in a way like, I don't have time. You don't have time not to meditate.
Right.
So if you're in the middle of your work day, everybody gets a chance to go to the bathroom. People are working so hard, they don't have a chance to take a lunch, they don't take a break. But at some point, you're going to the bathroom. So you go into that bathroom, and I always call the stall, that's the greatest meditation chamber.
Oh, yeah.
If you spend a minute with your breath right in there, if you just stand there, you can get away for a second and just stand in that stall and listen for your breath.
Right.
Then keep with the breath until it's almost imperceptible, and just stay with the breath. And you're going to calm yourself right down.
Right, because worrying is meditation in the wrong direction. So we meditate anyway, whether we realize it or not. For those of you that say you
what
don't,
you're focusing on is what you're doing. You're meditating.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Like
meditating or medicating.
Right. Mm-hmm.
That's another show. But anyway.
There's a Buddhist teacher, and I want to call his name, but I have a feeling I'm going to mess his name up. Please don't laugh at me. Thich Nhat Hanh. Please, guys. Those of you that are veterans out there, yes, oh my God. He messed the name up. Please, charge it to my head, not to my heart. Anyway, he has this teaching where he talks about walking meditations and washing dishes meditations and washing clothes meditations, Yes. He simplifies it, which is beautiful. And
when you put something in the microwave, the 3 minutes or the 2 minutes you're waiting, meditate then. You're waiting anyway.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Now, we have about a minute before commercial break. Can we introduce the next aspect of consciousness, the shadow?
Sure. We're going to talk a little bit about the shadow aspect of us. We all have a shadow side. It's sort of that dark space. And we'll go a little bit more into it, but we all have the shadow aspect. It's the dark, the murky. It's the place where we're repressed and suppressed. It's the compacted energy. That's the shadow.
And for those of you listening, we are talking today with Rev. Rowena Silvera, international spiritual leader, senior minister, and spiritual director of A Different Thought spiritual community. Stay tuned. We're talking about unveiling consciousness and the 7 veils of consciousness as described by Rev. Rowe. Stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
From on the air to on the sea, pack your bags and come with me. Hey, hey, what you waiting for? An early winter rendezvous with all the things you love to do. Hey, hey, treat yourself to more. A little more summer, a little more sun, a little less work and a lot more fun. A little more beach, a little more sand, a little less stress and a lot more tan.
Join your favorite Unity Online radio hosts for Cruise in the Caribbean, November 10th to 17th, 2012. On this fun-filled Caribbean adventure, enjoy sunshine, exceptional dining, and island excursions. Feed your spirit with music, message, and meditation, plus one-on-one time with some of your favorite hosts. That's Cruise in the Caribbean, November 10th to 17th, 2012. To learn more, go to unity.fm/cruise.
A little more sunset, a little more sea, a little less do, and a lot more be. Hey, hey.
Spirit of Recovery is the place where spirituality and recovery meet, where we support your spiritual growth. Reverend Anna Schaus, PhD, interviews down-to-earth guests who share with you how they keep going and growing in recovery. Spirit of Recovery is the place to get practical tips and to join in lively discussions on topics that matter to recovering people. This program welcomes everyone who wants to know more about recovery. Join Anna and her guests live every Tuesday at 4 p.m. Central, 2 p.m. Pacific on Spirit of Recovery, where we talk about what keeps you growing, only on Unity FM, the voice of an awakening world.
You've been listening to Living on Purpose, where psychology meets spirituality. Now, here is your host, Jesse Herriott.
And we're back with Living on Purpose. Today we have Rev. Rowena Silvera in the house talking with us about the 7 veils of consciousness. And right now we are discussing the shadow aspect for those of you that are just tuning in. So, Rev, go ahead and jump right in. How does the shadow fit in to the conversation?
Okay, so we like to think of ourselves as nice, kind, loving people, and that generally if we're not criminally inclined, that there's really no dark side to us. But we all have a dark side. We all have a dark side that, if pressed, can emerge sometimes, depending on our circumstances. So we look throughout history and we see people who have done cruel things. And the first thing is, how could anybody do something like that? I could never do something like that. Well, maybe you will never do something like that, but the potentiality, as it were, for the darkness exists in all of us. It's a part of the illusory experience. So over time, collectively, and in our personal lives, we suppress all those bad feelings, and I'm putting that in quotation marks, those bad feelings, that bad energy. However, and here's the catch, in that shadow, that dark, murky, repressed place that we do not like to look or engage, is a wonderful fountain of creativity. In the midst of all that darkness. How do we know this? We know it because if you look at some of the greatest artists and entertainers, they give such wonderful gifts to the world, but there is an aspect of the self that is very dark. We will never eclipse the shadow. The shadow, does, like the ego, doesn't go anywhere. But like the ego, we want to understand its place. The ego is a part of us. It's a part of our life. It gives us personality. I like hot, I like cold, I like green, I like blue. It gives us definition and contrast, but the ego should not run the show. The shadow aspect, like that, is in us. It is a part of that miserable place, that irritable place, but it should not run the show. People who are not managing or in charge or even aware of their shadow, that's when you see the emergence of violence and really horrific crimes, because the shadow is allowed to take over.
Wow, that's amazing. So that's the part of us that what Carl Jung talked about. He called it we have a compartmental psychology. We suppress that aspect. And all of us are luminous beings now. We're full of light. Cities set up on a hill that can't be hid, as Jesus said, but light casts a shadow. You know,
the shadow aspect.
It does. And sometimes the greater the light, seemingly the greater the shadow for some folks.
You see that even with wonderful spiritual teachers. You know, over the 30 years of studying and teaching, I've been places and gone to situations where you see a person who's, just a phenomenal spiritual teacher, and you see them one-on-one and you see something completely different.
Yes, you're like, oh my God, I thought I wanted to meet you, but you know,
exactly.
I'm sorry,
I should have left you in the book. Why? Because their shadow emerges in that space where they're comfortable and they're not suppressing it. So, but at the same time, they're a wonderful teacher. They're saying and doing things that are shifting the world in the way people think. But yet, they have not managed their own shadow well enough. So it pops out. And the shadow will pop out at an inconvenient time and place.
It will. So how do we manage it? Are you saying we should reconcile these aspects of ourselves, kind of sort of take it in and become aware of it? Or do we try to get rid of it? Or do we embrace it?
I know I have that potential in me. I know I have these family experiences in me. I know I have this tribal consciousness in me. I know how I feel when I'm not feeling so good physically. I know that I have this shadow aspect in me. Let's not suppress it. Oh, I'm such a good person. I only like to help people. Yeah, that might be true. But there's a part of you, too, that if you get aggravated enough, you want to kick somebody.
I ain't lying, or kick some, you know what? You know, you're driving down the road,
so, and
you see that finger come out of the window, you know.
Put the light of love on it. Well, yeah, sometimes I'm feeling loving and sometimes I'm not feeling so loving.
Right.
That's the reality. So we have to acknowledge that.
Wow. We are listening today with Rev. Rowena Silvera. If you are just tuning in, we are well into our discussion on unveiling consciousness. Folks, please download this. You can download it for free. Just go to the website at www.unity.fm. Click on our page and click on Program Archives and download the show. If you missed it because you were at work, it's okay. The information is available. Get it and put it in your library and listen to it. Let it soak into your spirit all the way down to the cellular level. Let your cells get it so that you can pull it up whenever you need to, from the corridors of your mind. This is good stuff, Rev. This is good stuff. So one other question. You mentioned during the break that you had an acronym for HOPE that could help us to reconcile and to basically take all this information in and to understand our own consciousness. Could you tell us a bit about that acronym?
Yeah, it's HOPE. It's easy to remember, HOPE.
Mm-hmm.
You can remember it. So the H is help is always available. It's always available. Don't struggle. You can relax into the answer. You don't have to put up a fight. You can relax into the answer. As you begin to ask questions, and the answer, Bishop Pearson says that there's always that seed. There's a seed of the answer in the question. So as you relax into it, the answer begins to emerge. Then the O, one power, one presence. It's always offering opportunities to connect with the one. Okay? So it's seek ye first the kingdom of God as you understand God, and all the rest will be added on to you. So seek ye first the kingdom of the one power, the one presence. It's always offering an opportunity for us to connect. It's beckoning for us to connect. Then we get peace, the P. Peace is an exchange. We get peace in exchange for our participation in the divine dance. Once we begin to dance with the infinite, once we begin to engage with the infinite and God as we understand God, we start to get this peace. The Bible talks about the peace that passes all understanding. We begin to get that. And then we move to the E. So after we've realized the help is available, we've tapped into the one power, the great source, we start to get this peace. Then we get this expanded revelation. And from expanded revelation comes an evolution. And then shift really begins to happen for us.
Wow, this is amazing. This is amazing. Rev, you have a couple other layers of consciousness. Could you go back for those that didn't catch it so that they can write them down? Because we're going to have to bring you back for a part 2, Rev. We're not going to have time to go into all 7 layers.
Okay,
but could
sure.
you repeat them so that you can so that they can write them down and have them for their notes?
Absolutely. I'll take it from the top. So the 7 veils of consciousness, as we understand them: 1, experience, the walk that you've walked. 2, the tribal system, societal and family beliefs. 3, your physicality, how your body feels. 4, the shadow, this is the dark, murky place. 5, we have emerging and developing thought. 6 is the gathering. 7 is collective consciousness.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. Folks, if you have a pen and a pad, please write those down. And like I said, Rev, we'll have to bring you back if you'll have us, and if you'll agree to come back for a part 2. This is
awesome. Would love to
awesome.
Come back and, to share with you all in your homes, on your job, in your car, wherever you might be. And, Jesse, with the Veils of Consciousness, my book, which will be out in May, is called The Dig. It's 101 questions in consciousness, because sometimes I find that people will say, I don't know what to ask myself. And so we have these 101 multi-part questions, and you'll be able to take that and journal and pick up one, and you don't go in any particular order because we didn't want anybody to run into a rut. But, you can start to ask yourself different questions. Sometimes they're funny and silly questions, and sometimes they're very deeply serious and reflective, but it's the questions. It's the questions. When you ask the questions, you would be amazed what they ask you.
That's awesome, and I can't wait until that book comes out. I mean, I want my copy for my library.
Sure.
And folks, you would be amiss if you don't get a copy. Rev, how can we keep in contact with you? Any upcoming events, or where can we find you at? How can we follow you?
Well, you can always find us on the website. It's www.adtretreat, the word retreat.com. Again, that's www.adtretreat.com. Our church number is 404-455-2574. You can always reach me, and I try to answer all emails at revrowena@hotmail.com. Of course, if you go to our website, we have information boxes so you can get on one of our mailing lists. Every Monday morning we do what we call Monday Morning Miracles, where we do a Course in Miracle teaching, and it appears in your inbox. We do one a week so we don't blast you all week with emails, but you have a teaching that comes to you right there wherever you are, 8:30 in the morning on Monday. And it really sets the tone for your week to, again, start to delve and study and ask questions. And if you're in the Atlanta area, please do come and visit us. We are at the Several Dancers Core Studios on Sunday mornings at 10:45. We begin service, and that's 139 Sycamore Street, in Decatur, Georgia. And if you're driving, you just need to go on our website, and they'll tell you exactly where you can park and everything. And the MARTA goes right there. It's the Decatur stop if you're on the train.
Awesome. That's beautiful, Reverend. Thank you so much for taking your time to have a conversation with us. Folks, I pray that you took this information to heart, and tune in again next week for the show, and listen out for part 2. We are going to work with Reverend to bring her back whenever she's available, whenever her schedule's available. And again, Reverend, I say thank you so much. And folks, her latest book, The Dead 101 Questions in Consciousness, will be available in May. You can follow Reverend online via Facebook or directly at adretreat.com. Thanks for tuning in this week to Living on Purpose. Also, I just want to let you know this program is made possible by the generous support of listeners like you. To make a contribution to Unity Online Radio, just go to unity.fm and click on Contribute. Thanks for joining us. This has been Jesse Herriott, encouraging you to live on purpose.
Thank you for tuning in to Living on Purpose, where psychology meets spirituality with Jesse Herriott. Listen in live every Tuesday at 9 a.m. Central Time for more insights into psychology, ancient wisdom, and how it connects to your life today. Living on Purpose, only on Unity Online Radio, the voice of an awakening world. This program is brought to you in part by www.jesseherriott.com, where psychology meets spirituality. Connect with us on Facebook and YouTube. Keyword search Jesse Herriott.
God is formless, yet takes many forms. What goes around comes around. Chant the name of the Lord and be free. No one comes to the Father except through me. Ever been confused by the variety and apparent contradiction within world religions? Join Reverend Paul John Roach every Tuesday for insight into those principles held in common by all the great religious traditions in world spirituality, exploring the unity within all cultures and faith traditions. Using discussions, interviews, humor, insight, and practical advice, we will clarify the confusion and reveal simple yet profound truths. Call in with your questions and ideas and help break down the barriers that separate us from one another. That's World Spirituality with Paul John Roach, Tuesdays at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern, here on Unity FM, the voice of an awakening world.
Inspiration only takes a moment. We invite you to focus your attention inward with these words from Elizabeth Searle Lamb. This is a new day. Lead your conscious mind to that still haven of your soul, where your indwelling Christ opens wide the doorway of your heart. At once, mind, soul, and body, you are flooded with the light and love of God. You are lifted high above this earthly plane and filled with the radiance of Spirit. Send this love and light on to those whom you hold dear so that it may uplift, heal, and comfort them. As you send this radiance on, you are filled with a new sense of God's power, and you release this power to the whole world to uplift, guide, and bless all people. A day's tasks await you. but God is with you, and with God's help, all shall be done perfectly.
This meditative moment is brought to you by Unity.